back to my channel. I am Heather Tiemann, and today I am joined by
Morel Johnson, the cheerleader.
And I am a realtor down here in the beautiful Lexington, Columbia area of South Carolina. And Morel is my preferred lender, but he also moved here from all over the world. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more because I thought that would give you guys good insight. But before we get started, you know I am going to ask that if you could please like and subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I have a goal of 550 subscribers by the end of 2025, and we're just shy of that 500 mark. So I really appreciate all the love and support. We've grown it by about 75 subscribers since the beginning of the year. So that is amazing. So I really appreciate that. But let's hop on into this. So Morel, you will learn that we cut up all the time.
All the time. Let me preface this by saying that we are doing this, and this is one of the questions that this topic gives me the most anxiety, and probably a lot of other military brats. And it's all about, like, where are you from, where have you been, and how did you get here?
Yes.
Yes. That's where we're going today. I have prepped myself as much as possible, and I'm drinking Coke Zero to make today a little less stressful and
Diet
anxious
Coke
for me.
would have been better, but
I'll take a good Diet Dr. Pepper too. I love Diet
I do
Dr.
like
Pepper.
a good DDP. So as we heard that he is a military brat.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about a couple of different places that you grew up.
Okay, so I would feel like I would have this nailed down after 15 years of doing this because I'm very young. So I was my mom and dad. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shake the table. My bad. The camera shakes when I touch the table. Do not do that. That's a big no-no. Heather told me that before we went live. Just to kind of share a little bit of background about my family in general to kind of like set the tone. My family is actually from Washington, D.C. However, I was born in Texas, and I should have been born in New Mexico, but that's another story, another time, and we'll come back to that one. But from Texas, I lived back in New Mexico, and then we lived in Panama for a while. That's when the United States still had control over the canal down there, and they had a military base down there. From Panama, we then moved to North Carolina, in the small town of Goldsboro, which is, a fabulous place to be and to have fun. And then we moved overseas, and we lived in a couple places while we were over there. And then finally Dad got orders to come to South Carolina, which was a stark contrast pretty much from anywhere we lived ever. Growing up in Europe was a lot of fun. Panama was a beautiful place. If you asked me what my favorite place to live was, Panama was by far it. And then, of course, my family coming from the capital of our country, of our great United States, coming to little old Sumter, South Carolina, Shaw Air Force Base was a huge shock, culturally and just size-wise. Socially, it was like, what are we going to do? And then, you learn very quickly as a military brat that home is where your family is. Home is where your friends are. And that was back in the day before we had like social media and email and stuff like that. So
showing your age.
15. I'm 15, everyone. But keeping up with your friends was a little bit more difficult because, you would move, you would give your friends your new address, and you would hope they would write. But you oftentimes found new friends at the new base you went to. And to be quite honest, when my father got stationed here and we came with him, we were surprised to find out that a lot of our friends who had lived with us at previous bases had also gotten stationed here.
That's amazing.
So it was like a little reunion. And even though Sumter's a small town, we had a lot of fun in that town, learning each other, hitting our life milestones. That's where, all right, we've gone through middle school, now we've gone through high school, the coming of age, learning how to drive, getting that first job, applying for colleges, all the things that you do. I did while I was there. And when it was time to graduate, I had to make a decision of how far I was going to go away. And University of South Carolina sounded like a good option. It was there. I applied for quite a few colleges.
Clemson would have been better, but
I would never. I'd rather rot underneath the concrete slab before I step foot. No, I've gone there. No, I'm joking. Clemson was a little. I was trying to get away from a rural life, And it just was not something that, you know,
Yeah.
I was really interested in. The University of South Carolina offered the opportunity for me to live a little bit more of a city life with not being too far away from my family. A lot of the other colleges and universities I had gone to, there was a deciding factor financially on how am I gonna make this happen.
Yeah.
And then some life events happened, and it kind of like said, this is where you're going, honestly. And I think that's something that's kind of shaped why I've stayed here. Sometimes, you know, it's not in your plan. Sometimes you might not be sure of your plan, and it's just kind of like, this is just what happened, and it turned out to be great. Divine intervention, I would even call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you love most about living in the Columbia metro area?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I almost don't want to tell it because I feel like I'd be letting a secret out. But when I graduated from University of South Carolina, it was during a time when the economy was not the best. I will not let you pick the year because that will age me, and I'm 15, remember. But
already graduating college.
But you know, it was, jobs were scarce, and I had the opportunity to work for a marketing and PR firm that was right there in Columbia. So that's what happened, and working for that firm really showed me what Columbia has to offer. It kind of like rolled back the sheet, so to speak, and I realized that we had a really cool art scene here. With some really cool, talented people. And so when I say art, I don't want you to think of like sculptures and painting, but I mean like people who are into music and computer design and engineering. And that's been really fantastic to kind of like see that come together. Our museum was going through a huge revamp, a huge renaissance, if you will. And now we get some really cool exhibits coming. And I was not an art person. To be quite honest with you, I was like, this is boring to me. But then when they kind of opened up and they would do like arts and drafts the first Thursday, or, you know, they would have these cool exhibits, our art blossom, where you can go in and kind of like see that you have designers in your community who are literally mimicking art through flowers. And I was like, this is really cool and creative. But then I realized that these are people that I actually know too.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. We are the seat of government in the state of South Carolina. After I had an opportunity to leave that marketing firm, I went to go work for the Supreme Court, and I learned a lot about our government, our elected officials, and what they do, and it kind of really piqued my interest because, you know, there's always like a narrative that you see on television that is simply not true in real life. When I worked at the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals, I learned firsthand how hard our judges and their law clerks work to get it right, and how they think and how they research. And it was just really fascinating to me. And I was like, I feel important. I feel like I am helping contribute to my community. And it kind of made me want to stay.
That's amazing. What would you tell someone who's considering Columbia as a place to raise a family?
I would say do it. 100% do it. It is the Lexington and Columbia area. It is a place that is still very affordable. Mm-hmm. It is still very family friendly, and there are plenty of activities that are still available to your children, opportunities too. And I can say that because I can say that wholeheartedly because I've lived a lot of other places. When I grew up in Sumter, I feel like the opportunities weren't really there. I moved to Columbia and had friends who graduated from here, and they talked about the different programs that their schools had, and I was like, we didn't have any of that. But again, Sumter's a much smaller town. Mm-hmm. And now I look back and I'm like, I have friends who they've had opportunities to work on Broadway. They are working for, Fortune 500 companies. They are working at NASA. We just had at one of the businesses that I work with, we had a NASA astronaut come and work there. So the opportunities are there for your children. The schools provide those opportunities for your children. So that's a huge factor for me. That was something that I was really impressed with, and I was like, one day when I have children, I would need to make sure that the schools that they're going to provide those opportunities and give them that launch pad, so that when they go and they decide that they want to be an actress or an actor, or they want to play sports, or they want to get into computer design, or they want to become doctors and lawyers, that there are programs that are available to them to make that happen. So that was really, really interesting to me to know that that was also a possibility. And this was at 22. I like to add, I bought my house at 23. How many states can you do that in?
Yeah.
The affordability was there. The opportunities were there. It's just you got to seek them out. And if you don't know, you can always reach out and ask me, and I'll tell you.
And we're going to touch a little bit on that just a little bit later in the video, because he is a lender. And he has worked with a lot of my clients that are relocating here.
Mm-hmm.
So last question regarding, your experience here. How would you say the pace and lifestyle here compared to the other places that you've lived?
Wow. I would say this. When I go home to visit my family, I definitely feel like I'm in a different country.
And is that Washington, D.C., correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, when I go to visit my family, I'm definitely feeling like I'm in a different country. It's a stark contrast. Even when I go to Sumter, I'm like, I'm familiar with this place. I know how to get around, but, Columbia, Lexington is definitely home for me. I will say that when I left and I got that opportunity again, that was a job that was just there for me when the economy fell apart in 08 and 09, that I didn't know that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go and work in a big PR firm in New York somewhere. And then I realized, like, I'm still close enough to my parents. I'm still just a couple of hours away from a 45-minute flight away from DC. So if I ever needed to go home, I could. But that 45 minutes was just what I needed to make sure that I could have my own independence and not still feel like I was, like, up underneath my parents. The fact that I could buy a house at 23.
Yeah.
Like, that was, I didn't realize what a gold nugget that was until I was like 33.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I have people who are like, I'm trying to make this happen. I don't know how. And it's still very doable. My nephew, he just graduated from college, and it is an opportunity for him if he wants to take it, because there is that affordability level here to make that a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to kind of move into the financing part. So if someone is considering a move here,
Mm-hmm.
what are some things that they need to do prior to trying to get a pre-approval?
Okay, that is a great question. One of the best things that someone can do when they're trying to get pre-approved is prepare themselves. Being prepared is going to make your process a lot more efficient. I always tell people to check their credit. Mm-hmm. And here's a North Star. And I say this, do not delineate from this. I just, with my saying, if you do what I say, we'll all be better people. If I ask you for a puppy and you give me a small dog, I'm going to ask you for a puppy. And we've seen it where I'm like, do this, and we'll have a client do something else. But number one, download the MyFICO app. That's MyFICO. And you want the paid version because it will give you your true mortgage scores. Now, you don't have to do that, but knowing where your scores are at is going to make you a better informed and an empowered buyer. It's going to give you number for number what I pull. So when you look at that, you're going to be like, these are my scores. Your mortgage scores and what Credit Karma or Experian are showing you are going to be very, very different. The mortgage survey for your credit is a little bit more tricky, and it's one of the most complicated surveying methods they use. And they're going to be rolling out a new one in the near future. We do not know when, but they keep telling us it's coming. But as of right now, you can pull that score for your mortgages, and then you want to make sure that you're looking at that median number, okay? So the one that's right in the middle. So if you have TransUnion that's reporting at 800, Equifax that's reporting at 850, and then Experian that's reporting at 825, Experian's that median number. The 825 is between the 800 and the 850, and that's the one you want to look at. The other thing that you want to have prepared is you're going to want to make sure you have some money available, okay? If you are selling a home, which a lot of the times when people are moving from out of state are doing, you can actually use the proceeds from the sale of your home to go ahead and get pre-approved as long as you know it's coming. So when you do your application, and it's going to be part of that. Do you have any other funds available? You can actually select that I'm going to be using proceeds from the sale of my home, and then enter that amount in to cover your down payment and your closing costs.
Yeah. And then they would also need to have some form of income lined up, correct?
That's correct. That's number 3. So if you're moving from out of state, you have got to have a job lined up, provided you are going to still be working. If you are getting retirement, or something like that, some continued income, then you don't need to do that. That's obviously,
as long as your income would support the
right,
house you're trying to purchase.
Exactly. If you're getting a benefit that's I'm just on $10,000 a month from your pension, we can use that as your income because it's guaranteed to continue for at least 3 years. If not, and you're going to be picking up a new job, the first thing that I'm going to ask you for is for a copy of your offer letter, and I'm going to be looking to make sure that it's non-contingent. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes a job will offer you, a company will offer you a position, and then there it have some verbiage that you'll have to pass a background check or a drug screening, or it may have some other stipulations depending on your level of profession that requires that like a certification or something be cleared for the state that you're going to be working in. I would need to see that offer letter. I can take it up front, but before we close, I need to see that you have cleared all those, and then we need to send that to underwriting.
Okay.
And then you want to make sure that your wages are not affected. So if you're living up north, oftentimes wages up north are a lot higher. And sometimes when you come down here, they're going to be lower. But so if they are lower, that offer letter is going to tell us, and that's the number that we're going to qualify you on. We're not going to qualify you on $50 an hour if you're not going to be making that when you move here. Yeah. It just logically doesn't make sense to do that.
And that is one of the big things that people that move here do not realize, that they think they can move here, purchase a home, and then find a job, and that is not the case.
Unfortunately not.
If you watched any of my other videos, you know that I always recommend start putting in those applications early, because in the South, we move a little bit slower. So you're not going to put in a job application, have an interview, and be hired in the same week. It's going to take, 6 weeks, 8 weeks before you're going to be finding a job. So you're going to want to start that as soon as you possibly can. So we also get a lot of people that move here, kind of going back to the point that you brought up earlier, because we are much more affordable. So a lot of first-time home buyers move here so they can actually afford to buy a home. Does South Carolina offer any first-time home buyer programs?
They do. South Carolina does. There are a couple first-time home buyer programs out there. One of the most popular ones are with SC Housing. It is our state bond program, and that changes every year. But some of the benefits of it are as of right now. Let me preface that by saying right now, because it is a moving target.
May of 2025.
May 2025. They are offering $10,000 toward the purchase of your first home. And then they are also typically offer a reduced interest rate that is below regular market value. Okay. And they let us know that rate every day. And some of the benefits of that are, no matter if you have to have a 640 minimum credit score, median credit score, you have to get eligible findings when we run you through automatic underwriting. But some of the benefits of that are, if you have a 640 credit score or if you have an 800 credit score, you get the same rate. So it's a little bit more beneficial for people who don't have the strongest credit, but it does allow you to access those funds. Now, I will say, and I feel like I need to put this out there, that money is not free money. SC Housing does charge a fee for you to access that money, and it is included in your closing costs. So you never get the full $10,000 amount that they're advertising in going towards your deposit, because they do take their fees off the top. So if you have more questions about what those fees look like, please feel free to reach out to either of us, and we can go into detail with you for that. But it does help. It is something. And we have a lot of people who qualify for it. And there are some income limits too. It is designed for a family that has a certain income threshold, and there's also a purchase threshold too. So you can't use it to buy $1 million house, unfortunately. But
I don't know that $10,000 would help with that.
I don't know. It'd be it's like turning on a fan in a hurricane. You don't feel the difference, right? And I say this proudly because I was a beneficiary of first-time homebuyer programs, and I think that it, again, going back to that affordability option, it offered me that opportunity to step foot into my first home. And when I bought that first home, compared to what it's valued at now, it has more than doubled. And so that's always really shocking to me, to be like, whoa, this was actually a good investment, because, I could have spent that time renting and made no money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my first home. I still own my first home. We don't live there anymore, but we use it as a rental property. But I utilize the SC housing program, and I lived there for a number of years, but it's more than doubled in value. And I now have rental income off of it.
Yeah, you generate some income.
So we are at almost 20 minutes, and we're only going to leave you with a couple more questions. What are the biggest mistakes you see buyers making when they're relocating here?
Oh, man. I would say this. Trust your lender and trust your realtor, number one. We are required, we are licensed. We have to have malpractice insurance to do what we do, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to you. So we're always constantly looking to make sure that we are doing the very best that we can to help you. Be very careful when you get outside parties involved. And when I say outside parties, I mean family and friends and Google research, because it's never going to give you the full detail. That is the biggest Achilles heel that I've been seeing a lot lately, and it really does disappoint a lot of buyers when they've done all these hours and hours of research, and I'm like, well, it's missing a key component, or it doesn't really highlight this particular aspect of this loan. If you want to know, call a lender, call me, and I will give you the skinny. Oftentimes what you're seeing online or with a family or friend would tell you is going to be outdated information or just flat out wrong information. And that can make you really frustrated with us, your team. It can also plant seeds of distrust because you see something in writing online by a total stranger, and then you hear something verbally by, technically we're your team, but we're total strangers to you too, and it can really cause some hiccups. And I say that to myself because I have been that person before. Another thing I will tell you is if you feel like you have to pay off a lot of debt in order to qualify, before you do that, talk to your lender. Oftentimes the option to pay your debt off at closing is probably the better option, mainly because if you pay off debt prior to and it closes an account, it can actually hurt your credit score, and that could take you from being eligible to ineligible. It doesn't happen like that always, but I have seen it happen more times than not. And then the last thing I would urge you to be careful about is when it comes to funds. And Heather, you and I have had this happen before. Yes. When it comes to the money that you're going to be using to make this transaction happen, cash is a no-go. It is a 4-letter word in the world of mortgage lending.
And cash means like actual cash, not cash sitting in your bank account. Mattress money. Mattress
money, we call it. That money in a mason jar that's dug up in a hole out back. That money that you have is great, fantastic. You can use it to pay bills. You can use it for whatever you need. But when it comes to purchasing a home, money that is used to help make that transaction happen has to be sourced. So if we look through your accounts and we see all these cash transactions hitting your account, it raises a huge red flag for me, and it's definitely going to raise a huge red flag for underwriting. So if you have money that is cash, mattress money like that, my suggestion would be to go ahead and put that in your bank account and let it stay there for between 60 and 90 days. At that point, it becomes what we call quote-unquote seasoned money, and it is no longer in need of being sourced because it's been there long enough. But we see that quite often where clients are like, I have money, it's in my safe, and I'm like, we can't use that. It has to be sourced funds.
One of the biggest things that I've seen, I'm not saying you have to use Merrill. I highly encourage you to use Merrill.
Love it if you did.
But I do encourage you to use a South Carolina local lender. What I see time and time again is lenders that are outside of South Carolina. They may be licensed here, but they don't understand South Carolina property tax law. And in South Carolina, when you purchase a property, it automatically goes to the higher property tax rate. But lenders here know that if it is going to be your primary residence, that it's going to be a much lower rate. So they account for that when they're doing your escrow.
Yes.
Out-of-state lenders do not know that. And it is a whole process to get them to understand that. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and they end up escrowing significantly more money than they need to. So until that gets fixed, it could be 6 months, a year before they get that escrow figured out, and you'll get your money back, but how long are you paying an extra $500-600 a month because of the higher property tax rate? So highly encourage you to speak with a local lender before using an outside lender.
I agree, and the tax part is just one sliver of it. You know, I think, Heather, you and I have done a couple of deals together where we had a client who was using, I call them big box lenders, and they kind of have this like, okay, one size fits all kind of metric, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work. Sometimes you have to be a critical thinker to be in this industry, and it can be stressful at times, but knowing the scenario and the situation and even the neighborhood can help. Another thing about having a local lender is oftentimes we know the real estate agent on the other side.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, when they see our names come across on a pre-approval, it makes them a lot more comfortable to say, I know this lender does good work, and I know they're going to be in communication with me. I'm not going to be out there left hanging to find out where we're at in the process. And this makes me feel more comfortable. And they would tell their clients, like, I know this lender is a reputable lender.
Yes. I feel a lot more comfortable than when I see the mortgage company with a rocket ship going in. So we are at 25 minutes. This is longer than when I typically make videos. So I'm going to end it here. We may have Morel come back for a second part.
I would love to.
Because I do have a lot more questions. But Morel, why don't you tell the people how they can reach you?
Yes.
If they are wanting to get a pre-approval.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I will give you all my number. It is 803. That's my area code. 565-2915. And I am putting my personal number out there for everybody to have. They all have it anyway. So you can have it too. Give me a call or a text if that's your preferred method. You can email me, mjohnson@assurancemortgage.com. That's ASSURANCE. And you can also go to my website, www.thecheerlender.com. That's TheCheerlender.
Perfect. And I'll also add it in a comment down below in this video so you can easily find that information. I appreciate you hanging out with us. If you are considering a move to the Lexington, Columbia area, feel free to join our Facebook group, Moving to Lexington, South Carolina. It is a wealth of knowledge, and you're able to get varying opinions. Because like we want to believe that our opinions are always right, which they are.
They are.
They are. Other people do have different opinions.
Yeah.
Possibly wrong ones, but different opinions. And you can hear them and take them with a grain of salt.
I mean, we do have to say, like, humidity down here is high. You have to acclimate yourself to that.
Yes.
That was something. Our mosquitoes are big, and if you have a small dog, it will take your dog away and lift you off and lift it up and carry it away. But overall, you know, I will say the people here are friendly. The cost of living, comparatively speaking to other bigger cities, is a lot lower, and the weather is a lot better.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. But until next time, I'll catch you in the next week. Bye.
Bye everyone. Thank you for having me, Heather.
You're welcome.